Welcome to RHI's Sociable City Interviews, where we meet with global thought leaders on nightlife and the social economy. Today, we are joined by Graham Weber, Marketing and Communication Specialist for the Texas Music Office. He is a touring musician who served as Artistic and Program Director for the international songwriting organization, the House of Songs. In his current role, he focuses on outreach with venues, municipalities, and music focused organizations with an emphasis on helping music and music related business know what tools are available to maintain and help grow the music economy in Texas.
Hey, Graham, I'm so excited to talk to you. And I'm really excited to learn more about what you do and what your role is. So maybe we could start with that. What's your background and how did you get into this current role?
Well, hi Jim. Thanks for having me. Yeah, so my background is I've been a touring musician for over 20 years. For I guess 10 years ago, I had done some work with an organization called the House of Songs, which was an international music. It was an LLC at the time. I came on board and we transitioned into an LLC, or I'm sorry, into a 501c3. But it was an international creative collaborative. So we worked with 33 plus countries. We had a couple of uh, houses in the States, a physical house in Austin, a physical house in Northwest Arkansas, and then we had an apartment up in Manhattan. And we would facilitate collaborations, songwriting collaborations, and opportunities for artists from other countries to come here and work with artists and wherever, whatever area we had a foothold in, and had a relationship with those communities. And then we would go to a lot of conferences and showcase festivals and stuff like that, and premiere new collaborative work. And also with that, importing and exporting artists and things like that. So I had worked with, I'm currently at the Texas Music Office, which is in the office of the governor, under the Economic Development Department. I had left my old job a little over a year ago, and a position opened up with the Texas Music Office, who I had done a lot of projects with in the past. I do a lot of live event production, and as well as still touring as a musician and recording artist. But I like the team a lot, and I think the Texas Music Office does a lot of. It's very supportive of an industry that I've given my entire adult life to, and we do have a great team, and we do a lot of work to help our music cities. We are almost at 100 music cities now throughout Texas.
Oh, wow.
And there's a process for that we go through, and but they have to meet some criteria, and we do an MOU with them. We need to have endorsements from a local representative, and they'll have to have basically a team there on the ground. But and then at the state level, what we do is we bring all those people together. We just had our statewide conference where we had at least 50 different cities coming together, and it's a great place for them to be able to talk to each other, see what's working in certain cities and certain towns, and these go from small towns to Houston and Dallas and Austin and San Antonio. Texas is a very big state with a lot of diversity.
Yeah, well, that's surprising that you have so many cities that you would classify as a music city. I mean, actually, when somebody says music in Texas, you think of Austin, right? I mean, that's probably a challenge that
I
a lot
do.
of these cities face is they're like a stepchild of the big kahuna of music in Texas.
Well, there is some of that. I'm an Austin guy. I've been there for almost 22 years, and I'm a pretty big flag waver for my city. But it's been a really, I've toured all over Texas and all over the world, but this past year, really going out and doing a lot of outreach, and we have a program that we administer. It's called the well, it's a liquor tax. Basically it comes back off of mixed gross receipts, beverage receipts, and or wine or beer licenses, whatever those venues have. But the Texas Music Incubator Rebate Program is what it's called. And so going out to talk to these smaller venues under 3,000 cap, venues and small festivals in rural communities, I got to go spend time with not just the venue owners, but really spend time in some of these places that I'd played or I'd driven through. And you can really every, with the diversity of landscape and, demographic and economic demographics and things like that. The one thing that I love about music is that it is a connector. It does bring people together. And if you're in a small town, you're in a small town, but there are people in those small towns that want there to be more music. They want to have more engagement, and it's a great way to bring people with maybe different ideas or different backgrounds, whatever. And you know this as well as I do, that music can be a really good equalizer and get
Hmm.
people in the same place and get people realizing that maybe we're not as different
Yeah, it
as we are
crosses
on the
all
internet all
crosses
the
all
time.
boundaries. Yeah, yeah. So, um, what if you had to classify the top three things that the state office does to support towns? You've already mentioned a few of them, but how would you categorize them? If I were to say, here's the three top things that the Texas Music Office offers to towns and cities.
Yeah, so the three kind of pillar things that we do are bigger things that we do. The TMIR, the Music Incubator Rebate. It was the first one in the country. Tennessee just passed something along those lines, but I'm not sure it's rolling out yet. Jimmy would know. But our program has been, it's the only one in the country that's been active, and we're still fine tuning it. We just finished our second year and now we're in our third. We get basically it had to go through, as state government works or any government works, it went through a couple of, it didn't pass and then it did. So we just got renewed this past legislative session for $20.2 million over the biennium. And that money is money that these venues have paid in off of mixed beverage gross receipts, or wine or beer, depending on their license, if they're just a wine and beer venue. But it's pretty easy to qualify. They just have to do it. And
Hmm.
and they need to know about it. They can get up to $100,000 back if they've paid in that much. And that's a big shot in the arm for, I came up playing in 3000. I still do. I still play in these venues. And to get to, there's a number of like real life tangible examples of this happening over the past year of talking to some of these folks that I know personally from as being an artist or having produced things with them. But, people, especially small venue owners, are they're in this for the love of it.
Hmm.
They're called to have these venues. Nobody's driving a Maserati, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
$100,000 back, or if there's a club called the Mucky Duck in Houston that I love those people, and they needed a new roof, and they needed $35,000 for this roof, and we were able to let them know that
Oh, so that's a good
they ended up
example
getting
of
36 back this year, and they're so
yeah.
so the rebate program is probably it's the most impactful, tangibly impactful thing that we're doing right now, and wanting to spearhead more like-minded legislation with that. But as being in the governor's office, the one of the things that we can't do is we can't actually lobby for anything. But another thing we do is we do an economic impact report just on Texas every year. And that provides a lot of data, and it gives a lot of fuel and ammunition to people that do want to introduce legislation to make things better in the entertainment industry and the proliferated economy around it. So being in economic development, it's always about, are we creating new jobs? Are we helping these industries that, and music in Texas is a very big deal. It's a very big export deal.
Hmm.
And it's a big attractor for tourism, and it's a big attractor for hospitality. It should, and it does work hand in hand with all those things. So that's a big part of what we do, is we try to provide resources to people that want to try to get some new legislation passed, and also to people in these, our liaisons in these music friendly communities who, have questions about, how did such and such get around this, or how do we confront this issue that is plaguing our scene right now, and can we introduce them to somebody who can help them if we can't help them ourselves.
Hmm.
So the music friendly program, music friendly Texas communities, Uh, like I said, I think this past weekend we added 90 or 92nd or 93rd in San Augustine. Um, and we'll hit 100 in 2026, and that'll be we'll be excited about that. Um,
Yeah, that's great.
but yeah, so my friend Jeannie Mascoro is the one who administers that program. And she does, I get to, I'm kind of a Swiss Army knife person, and there's only five of us in the office. So I get to work with a lot of those communities when they're doing events, and we have our social media, and we have our newsletter and things like that, but just kind of trying to help them with branding, and then also talking about their things that they're doing in their communities and getting their
Mhm.
message out to not
So
just.
you have this funding source. You work in helping to lobby it with the state and come up with policy-friendly initiatives, and then you built this network of music cities that really get
Yeah.
to talk and share with each other. So those would be the three things. Now, you've been involved in in the music industry, both as an artist and also within your, starting that early venture that you did, and now with the Texas office. But how have you seen the independent music venue evolve during your time in the field? And to what extent do you think COVID had an impact? And where do you think things are now versus before COVID?
Well, so there's a couple of prongs to that question. First off, I'll say COVID was very bad. It was not good for and not making light of it at all. I know in Austin, and I know in a lot of other cities that I visit a lot and play a lot of especially smaller venues, independently owned venues, um, they had to shutter. I mean, there really was no recourse. A lot of people got very creative, and the people that made it through, um, hats off to them, and they're still doing it. And but it was really hard, especially if you can't. A lot of it's selling liquor. That's always been the thing where that's where they kind of make their money at the venue. Ticket sales to some extent, but not too much. And if you can't get people in to sell them anything, then
Hmm.
you're not going to keep the lights
Yeah,
on.
or today more people are not drinking alcohol,
That's
or they're
also a
not
big deal.
staying out till 3 in the morning. You see more of a demand for early shows. So
Yep.
it's interesting.
And I thought, truthfully, I thought because I'm getting older and I like an early show, I thought maybe that this was like, hey, it's all working. But but yeah, younger people aren't drinking as much, which is, I mean, it's a fact. And
Hmm.
when I'm out venues, if I'm out for work or if I'm out to like support a band or something, it's just, I mean, that's a big change. That's going to be a big change that affects how live music and these venues um, pay for things, or
Hmm.
it's going to be different. I think at the core, though, um, in my experience in independent venues, um, there is the kind of ever looming Live Nation, AEG, taking over different venues, and there are also regional promoters in different places that are trying to kind of conglomerate, and so they can have a better seat at the table and can be competitive with those big companies. But the smaller venues, I think it hasn't changed that much. That's the strange thing. It's like there's not as many of the kind of the crusty old guys that the chain smoke in the office that I loved and that gave me all my opportunities. But there's still some people that are holding on to that. I think the one thing, I think there's been some technology that's actually helped with bookkeeping and like and booking itself, but
Hmm.
getting
Hmm.
paid on time now is a lot easier.
Yeah.
So I think I think there's been some positive changes that with tools that smaller venues have been able to utilize to have a better business. Musicians, not generalizing, and there's definitely, this is not the overall assessment, but people in this field, maybe, I think it's safe to say, are not automatically the best business people.
Hmm.
Um, that's not a given, especially with venue owners. They opened these places because they wanted to. They wanted to have a place for people to come and play music. They wanted to have a place for people to congregate and make some money doing it, keep, feed their families as well. Um, that doesn't mean that they all have an MBA, and
Yeah, yeah. So
musicians
the challenge
especially.
is how do you make money with your passion? So that's the
Yeah.
that's the key. And it's not to get rich, but just to, be able to pay your expenses. Now, we
Yeah, you
talked
pay.
earlier
Yeah.
about the challenges musicians face, in particularly touring musicians, and the struggles to earn a living and isolation from families and access to alcohol and drugs and sex while you're on the road, and you end up getting into situations that build upon your isolation. And even with venue operators who wake up every morning and wonder how they're going to make it through the day and meet their payroll and pay the rent and pay the musicians. So, so I know mental health is a big issue that's becoming a part of the discussion among the independent venue industry as well as within the music world. And I know Austin has an innovative program that's been around, you said, for a number of years. Can you describe a little bit about what's being done to help the music industry?
Absolutely. Yeah. So in Austin, we have, again, I feel very lucky that that's the place that I chose or chose me. Um, we've been ahead of the game in Austin for a while. So about 20 years ago, I think they're in their 20th anniversary year. There's an organization called the Health Alliance for Austin Musicians, which provides health care, not so much insurance, but they do help navigate the exchange and things like that for, again, for artists that, these people know how to play guitar, but that doesn't mean that, people, also musicians can be very, there'll be a kill switch on like, there's too much. I can't do this paperwork. So they help a lot with that. 10 years before that, there was an artist in Austin named Sims Ellison, and he passed away. There was a lot of mental health issues involved in that without getting into details about it. But they started the Sims Foundation, and his family and friends and some other artists. And it's been around for 30 years, and they offer mental health services, addiction services, on a sliding scale, to help out artists, musicians, and musician related professionals, and their families in Austin. And we see things like this kind of happening. I know in Seattle, they're doing there's some healthcare things. In Nashville, they're also doing some things, where hopefully it does not just span for physical health, but also, mental health, and keeping people in a good, mental state, uh, and a good physical state. That's going to make your community stronger. I firmly believe that. And I know that Austin has grown a lot since I've been there, but it's still, to me, a pretty tight knit community, with a bunch of different pockets, but there is a common agreement among all these, an unspoken agreement amongst all musicians and music people, that we're here for each other. And I think that that's one of the best things about my city, but I see it in other cities too. And I know, and even in smaller towns, if people, if these communities can kind of come together and find a way to be supportive, especially in those things that are not the easiest things to talk about, making
Mhm.
it, taking a stigma away, from people who might need some help, with a problem that they're struggling with.
Right.
That is a very uncomfortable conversation for a lot of people. But if you can normalize a little bit, and have access to resources, for these people, that, musicians are not rich people either. So if it's
Mhm.
affordable and they don't feel intimidated about it, and they feel welcomed into, like, hey, these people are here to help, and I also know X, Y, and Z, this many people who have done this because they've been around for so long. There's a proven sort of, they aren't questioning it as much. They're like, well, if that worked for them, maybe it's okay for me. So having had the program for so long, I think it's a little more socially acceptable, and less stigmatized for those artists and people that work in the business to utilize.
All right. Well, you've spoken a lot about how Austin was somehow or another your Mecca. And obviously, we're going to be in Nashville, which has the domain Music City. But Austin claims to be the live music capital of the world. And so, what makes Austin a music city? So, this is your 30-second summary of what makes a music city and what particularly makes Austin a music city.
I would say that Austin, Texas, while it does claim to be the live music capital of the world, I mean, there's live music every night. That's one thing that makes it a music city. We have some great festivals. We have South by Southwest and Austin City Limits Festival. There's a festival every weekend. But when talking to people not from Austin, I say come anytime, any day of the year. You can go to a handful of venues, and you can see world-class entertainment. Austin is not maybe the best business town, but I do think it's the best artist town. It's where people come to live. It's a great town to come home to. It's got great food. The people are friendly. And there's a ton of different kinds of venues, like pretty much any genre of music you want to see, you can see it at a high level pretty much every night of the year. And the audience is another big thing. Austin has a trained audience. When you're born there, I have a 10-year-old. She knows how to tip at a show. She knows when to clap. She knows when not to talk. Austinites will look at you and not be mean, but they'll shush you if you're talking over a quiet song, and if you're not really embracing the show. It's almost like you feel it, and then you get into it. So I think having a community that loves music and supports it and knows how to act and how to appreciate it and does show their appreciation through all of our nonprofits and through all of our venues, and people buy tickets and they'll buy physical copies of albums still, which doesn't happen all the time, but we try to do that as much as we can in Austin.
Yeah, well, it's great to see your passion and your enthusiasm for your city, and also the work that you do. And clearly, you're somebody who is easy to talk to, and someone who can really be a good advocate, which is probably why you're in the Texas Music Office.
Well, it's an honor. And, there's some great, I will say real quick, Fort Worth, Texas, Dallas, Texas, San Antonio, El Paso. These are cities that are really, Houston, of course, but Dallas and Fort Worth have really just kind of blown my mind after working in this position and seeing all the things that they're doing and how much support they have for their artists in those cities, and really putting their money where their mouth is. And there's a lot of great cities in Texas, I think, that you can look to and take notes on. As far as other cities, trying to implement programs and helping out their artists and the professionals that work in the industry alongside those artists. So,
Yeah. Well, this has been a great conversation, Graham, and I look forward to hearing you in Austin. I mean, not Austin, in Nashville.
Nashville. Yeah, I'm very excited to be there.
I
And
got to
thank
go
you so
listen
much
to
for
your music. I got to find some of it too.
having me. Well, I'll send you some. I'll
All
send you some.
right. Well, this has been a wonderful conversation. Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much, Jim. Appreciate it.
Okay.